Hey everyone, Donna Smith here, president and owner of Your Tech and More. And I am also the host of the Path Forwards with Tech podcast. And I welcome all of you today to this hopefully fun and definitely educational session. This is episode number 18 of this podcast series. And today we are going to talk about some suggested hacks for setup and an overall process, easy to follow process that I suggest that all of us Zoom users utilize to save ourselves frustration and to come across, regardless of the situation, in a very credible way, because we have got our presets and everything set up well for within our Zoom environment so that we automatically join in a clean and succinct way. We are projecting readiness, positive readiness whenever we follow these steps. Okay? So today we are going to talk about Zoom application, Zoom uses and setups in general. The typical scenario of the Zoom user is like this. I see so many people who fit this scenario. You're strapped for time and you're going to be late for your meeting or event, and you're nervous. And you go and you click the join link that you finally found to join, and then you have to be on hold because a Zoom update needs to happen. It delays you even further. Or you recently did a Zoom update and suddenly your audio is not set up. The device that you normally use is not found, or the volume is too low, or you don't want to use the same Zoom background that you had saved from the last meeting that you attended. Or lastly, you need to change the name shown on your Zoom tile to come across well. These are all typical scenarios that I see day in and day out of attending and also hosting Zoom events and meetings. So this education today is going to eliminate all of these frustrations for you so that you come across well and that you ultimately enjoy the Zoom event or meeting that you are a part of. So basically, why is this important? Why am I shooting this podcast episode on this? Because I want to eliminate for all of us out there in Zoom land frustration and stress ahead of joining any type of Zoom event, either as a host or as an attendee. And I also want us all to increase our credibility by projecting readiness when we join, so that our audio is set up well, both speaker and microphone, and that our audio quality is good, and that also our virtual background is professional for what it is that is the topic at hand for the meeting or event in Zoom. That's why I feel that all this is important. So a general FYI before we actually get started on Zoom tools, Zoom settings, and layouts. There are two parts of Zoom. There's the Zoom app that I'm going to be talking about today. That's actually an installed application on your device of choice. That is separate from what people typically use for Zoom, and that is off of your browser of choice where you log in to your Zoom platform account. That's not what I'm going to be covering today. I'm not going to be covering Zoom platform account. FYI on that. So your Zoom platform account, that's again accessible by a web browser, is where you set up general account information, general account or across events and meeting type of information. All of those types of settings or what is configured in there. And the app is different than that. The app is more singular as far as what it is that you set up from one meeting or event to another. That's the difference between the app and your platform account in a web browser. So important thing to know, okay? So let's go ahead and let me go ahead and share my screen here. And okay, so what you're looking at on the screen right now is, and I'm going to show the particulars of how I got to this point in a minute, but what you're looking at is the actual app that I'm going to be educating you on today. Is called Zoom Workplace, okay? And again, this is an actual installed application on the device that you join or host Zoom items in or using, okay? And so the way that I got to the screen that you're seeing here, the main thing on the screen, is I double left click on my installed icon here on the desktop to be able to launch this application. So from here, what you do is you enter in your login. Usually it's the same, well, in fact, it's the same login that you have with your platform account that you join in the browser on. So you go ahead and you enter in your login credentials, and then that's how you get started with the Zoom app, okay? And so from here, let's go ahead and look at the some actuals here as far as education points that I want to share. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how you actually get a hold of this Zoom application or Zoom Workplace, okay? And I'm going to be showing in the show notes down below this video, I'm going to include these download links. But basically there are 3 options that we have as Zoom users for this application. It supports Windows, it supports your mobile device, and it also supports Linux. Let's talk about Windows first, which is the browser tab that we're looking at here. And so just as an FYI, firstly, that starting December of 2025, Zoom is no longer going to support updates on older PC hardware that is using this app, aka 32-bit Windows or 32-bit PC hardware or laptop hardware. So that's just an FYI for those using older systems. From then, for the general use of Zoom and also just in general, you want to use 64. You want to download the 64-bit version right here with this blue button. So that's how you get access to this installable application, okay? And then there's also the app stores for your favorite mobile device. You can get started with the install this way off of this web page. And then lastly, there's a special Zoom support page for those of us using Linux of how you install on that platform. So that's your application install options. Okay, so once that you've gone through and you've downloaded and then you have installed the app, is where you see that preceding screen that we were looking at for actually logging in. So what we're looking at now is after I have logged in to my Zoom app account. That's the screen that we're looking at right now. Let's do a basic walkthrough of the application, okay? The first thing that's of importance here is to go in and check for updates. That's got to be always your number one thing before you join or host any Zoom event or meeting, okay? So if you click on that, I already went through and did this before starting this recording anyway. I just wanted to show you what this looks like, okay? So you always want to start with that, Okay, then the second most important thing is off of the settings icon, that gear icon. So the main things that we want to look at here are video and effects, and then the audio setup. Those are the main things in here that change for every event or meeting that we go to. Now, the reason why this camera view is not showing has to do with the way that I'm recording this episode. Normally, for anything, you need to have the camera chosen here, and then it needs to be viewable to see it here within this context of the Zoom settings. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two for video is you need to either select none for your virtual background or choose your virtual background of choice, depending on your particular meeting or event. Okay, so those are the two key video and effects pieces that are important here. The other has to do with audio, both the speaker and the microphone. Now, what Zoom loves to do when it's done any kind of update is lessen the volume, something less than 100% for both the speaker and the microphone. So that's point number one, is that you need to reset back to 100 for both of these. You also need to make sure that the correct speaker device is set up. And you can, once that you do that, you can click on test speaker. Okay. And then the same method goes for your microphone. Okay. So those are exceptionally important things every time you go in to use Zoom, to go in and check. All right. Okay. And the other thing I want to talk about, some other points here. One is if you regularly host your own event and it's using Zoom, a handy check before actually starting your event is to click on this new meeting icon. And then that way you can actually go in and confirm that your setup is correct, that you have just done, either within your platform account that you logged into your browser with, and or what you've set up here in the app itself. So you can even check that, make sure that your share screen stuff is working correctly, and that your recording options are set up correctly, either to the cloud or to your local computer. All of that kind of stuff can be tested before you actually go in and open the room for your meeting events. So very handy tool to have in your arsenal for us hosts, okay? The other thing that's super important here is this join icon. If you have the meeting ID and the meeting password, you can join any Zoom item, event, or meeting by this method right here within the Zoom application itself. So that's join option number one. The other way that you can join a Zoom meeting, once that you've gone through this process, is if you've got the join link that is a URL, you can go over in your favorite web browser and enter in that URL that way. And then whenever you join, after you've set up this Zoom app and you join your event or meeting via the Zoom link in the browser, automatically the browser instance of Zoom goes in and it uses what you've got set up here live within the Zoom app. So you can join safely either way for your Zoom item that you want to join. So those are the two ways that you can typically join a meeting or event. The other way that I want to mention is if you've got your calendar and you've got your online calendar or you've got your meetings and events platform linked into your Zoom account. Off of this calendar view that we're looking at here in the right-hand side of the Zoom app screen is that you can start for any particular day, okay? You can start your meeting by this method as well. Now, No, this only applies if you are the host of that event. Otherwise, you can't join in this manner. Okay, so that's another way that you can join whenever you're a host. Now, this linking that allows me to see and you to see what this option here for this particular event, okay, is done by integrating within your Zoom platform account. In other words, you go into your favorite web browser and you access your platform account that way. There is an integrations area within the settings for Zoom, and you can integrate those tools that I just mentioned in with Zoom, and then all that happens seamlessly within your Zoom app every time that you utilize a hosting event in that fashion. So those are the ways that you can leverage the Zoom app to your liking, to increase your credibility and lessen your stress each and every time. So before we close out this episode, let's go through the process, the quick and easy process, that once you've gone through, that now that you know what this is all about. This is the process to use, I suggest, every time before you join any event or meeting, that you follow this process, okay, that I'm going to tell you. You log into your Zoom app on your device of choice. You check for updates. Now, what happens whenever there is an update that needs to happen on your device is once it is done, then the app requires you to log back in again. And so then you're back to what it is we're looking at right now on the screen. So that's what happens whenever an update happens. But at least this way you are in control of when those updates occur on your device. And it's not in the rush state right before you need to join a meeting or event. The next thing that you want to do is check and do any resets that you need to do for your video, for your virtual background, and your audio setups, both speaker and the microphone. Super duper important. And then you want to go ahead and join your event or meeting whenever it's time to do so, either by the join icon or by separately in a browser on this device that we're working with via the join link that you have access to. Either of those for joining. And then you want to make sure that you stay logged in to your Zoom app until you leave that meeting or event. Then that way all of this information, all of these settings that you set up in the app are used throughout the meeting or event. Okay? So those are the types of things for education that I feel are so important with maximizing Zoom. Okay? And so let's go ahead and close out this episode. I hope that you have found this educational and inspiring for how you can, number one, improve your credibility, and number two, lessen your stress, and make sure that you are coming across as you want to for any one individual Zoom meeting or event. Because that's also important in this Zoom prevalence of Zoom environments that are out there, is to lessen our stress and to come across well. So as I say, I hope that this has been educational for you, and I will be back in 2 weeks with either with a guest or with another education type content episode for you. And in the meantime, I'm going to be closing out episode number 18 of the Path Forwards with Tech podcast. And I look forward to seeing all of you real soon, and make it a wonderful day.